Nicely done.
Thank you.
All right, so we will be starting talking about anime conventions here in a few minutes. Just let folks filter in to our chat room. We hear some odd feedback here as we get everything set up, but that is the way of things.
Hello.
We'll be good to go. Exactly. Would be nice if things were working on the other side of the screen, but they're not. There we go. And we will try to make sure that we don't have any. That's what we wanted to stop.
Break on through to the other side. Break on through. Ow! Oh, yeah. Kaiser.
Hey, Kaiser.
Right on time. Excellent.
As
Glad
always.
you could join us.
Yeah. So the question is why you're getting it over there, but I'm not getting over here. Why are we not getting? Is the chat box moved somewhere weird? Perhaps it is.
I like what Garrison Keeler calls
There
that
we
little cafe, the Chatterbox Cafe.
Ah, yes. There we go. So we're going to have to. Well, that's annoying. So it doesn't want to display the chat room.
Wait, isn't that it right there?
That is, but every time I try to expand it,
oh, you know what?
it bounces around.
Have we gone back to the preset maybe on the menu?
Oh, that's true. That won't help.
Let me see if I can
move this over.
Well, I'll let you do that first.
No, go ahead. I'm fine.
Let's see if I can get it to pop up there. Okay,
that's
interesting.
Mode,
custom. Are we on custom? Yeah, we are. Okay, so we're right on where we need to be.
Good.
So
let me. Technical difficulties beyond our control. Pause.
There we go.
Good. I need to scroll down. There it is. So we're going to have some slight display interesting things.
Things we do to keep
that's been adjusted now for that. Okay. It's interesting. It's still kind of blown out. I think that's just the fact of kept you waiting.
Snake.
Of course. Good. Yeah, I don't know that there's much we can do that on the chat room. That's a shame. Oh, well, that's fine.
Oh, wow. Look at the lag time. That's still up there.
Yeah. Oh, well. Like, if you want to pause that, just so we're not pulling the stream the whole time at some point. Yeah. Now we'll be singing that all evening.
All evening long, it's stuck in my head.
All night long.
We were just waiting for you. Okay, now we can come in.
Yeah, so we're talking about anime conventions. Should be good. Sashiburi.
We are actually we're a little bit early too.
We are, yes.
According to that clock.
Waiting for folks to filter in another minute or two, and then we can get started. And usually it takes a few minutes for folks to find us as well. That's absolutely fine. How are you guys doing, Liquid and Kaiser? Hello, Fisher.
Fisher.
Thank you.
XOXO.
As we drink our branded water.
Oh, we got to put our logo on them.
Yeah, exactly. Branded logo.
I haven't got on mine, but
yeah, we'll get there.
Mine's generic.
Yeah,
recycled.
Yeah,
recycled water.
Blank aid in there.
Let's see. Failed updates on Windows.
Hey, good.
Could that ever happen?
Nah. Windows always works fine.
Windows works. That was one of my favorite.
Microsoft works. I used that for a while, that application. It was not bad.
Yeah.
But definitely limited. Back in the Windows 3.1 days. Yes, we're that old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember back when we had pebbles and sticks we'd draw in the dirt with, and then they came up with these clay tablets.
Drawing and OR gates in the sand.
Now they're drawn in silicon.
Yeah.
Still in sand.
Yeah, exactly. What was I reading about how making glass and making sugar or making candy are very similar.
Oh yeah,
because it's basically melting. One's sand, the other sugar, but it's the same chemical process basically. If you refine it correctly, you get this clear thing, just when you can eat and when you don't want to eat.
When you can throw somebody through and it looks like a nice stage,
Exactly.
stage glass, crystallized sugar.
And bottles and all that good stuff.
Great for doing windows and gingerbread houses. Now I'm
Gingerbread.
starting to get hungry.
Yeah. All right. So it's a little past. We can go ahead and get started with our topic for today.
Our topic for today is what?
It is about anime conventions. We want
Anime
to talk
conventions.
today about the question of, are anime conventions worth it? Is it worth the money and expense and time and effort of going to an anime convention?
Worth it. Ooh.
Worth it.
Worth
Yeah. So you can unpack that a lot of ways,
Yeah.
right? But the big question and why I wanted to raise this is I went through a while back and totaled up how much I spent at an anime convention. Not just in the dealer's room, but for the badge. And that's, between $30 and $80 at some anime conventions. And then there's a room. Sometimes you can mooch off of that. But you're probably going to be spending something for a room.
Yeah.
Then there's transportation.
And parking once you get there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
You can be paying 20, 30, 40 bucks a day for parking.
Yeah.
Or you're flying. That's going to
flying it. And then if you fly, you need to get transportation. So public or a cab or both.
Yeah.
Because the public doesn't go quite to where the convention, most of them do, but.
True. And then there's cosplay. If you're cosplaying and you're making an outfit for the
cost
convention.
of all the cosplay that goes into it.
Yeah. And then there's food.
Materials. Oh, food.
Yeah, you got to eat. And you're probably going to be spending some money on
convention
prices. Convention, yeah.
Convention food prices.
And convention food is so good for you. And it's so cheap. So you got that problem. So when you total it up, yeah, you can take a rickshaw if you can find one.
Yeah.
So you total all that up, you're spending hundreds of dollars. I spent $1,000 at Otakon one year, including dealer's room and all that kind of stuff. So the question becomes, and
that's a lot of money.
It is
$1,000.
And so obviously, the question, is it worth it, is a bit binary. But at what point does it not become worth it? I guess would be the better way of phrasing that. At what point are you spending a lot of money for the experience?
Well, now there's a big social dynamic as well. And I've heard people say to others who haven't gone to cons before, it's better if you go with friends.
Yeah.
And
good point.
I've heard some people say even it's better to go with people you like than go to a con with somebody who drives you nuts. It might even be better not to go just so the experience isn't bad.
Yeah.
But so there is that social dynamic. And once you're in that social dynamic, then it's to some degree part of everybody goes off and does some of their own thing, but also gets together, and that group part, participation. Okay, we're all going to go out and eat here.
So I think that's a great point, is this question of the social dynamic. What are you doing at an anime convention that's different than when you're getting together normally? Is it different people? Is it different activities?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. The common interest. The folks who I interact with on a regular basis, most of them don't even have an idea what anime is. They think all anime is hentai. Or no. And I'm amazed how many people are under that misconception. And so somebody who understands a little bit more about the culture, I may encounter once or twice in a day, but being surrounded by people who can relate, it's mind-blowing. So that element really makes it worth it. And then I find out new stuff that I never knew existed. Who is that character? What was that show? Oh, you like this? Check out that.
So there's the educational aspect to it.
That too.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Now, what about the people that you actually go with when you do that? How is the convention? How is the convention different when you're with a group of people. Because I know for me, one of the things about that a lot of folks talk about with the con is that they go to a convention to be with people that they don't normally hang out with, where they may know them online, they may, you know, meet up occasionally, but where a convention is your chance to really spend, you know, a couple of days with them.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because people come with different different background and interest.
Mm-hmm.
So some people who are heavy into gaming
Mm-hmm.
sort of come in, and some people who are, you know, they've got 5 cosplay outfits that they're going to go through the entire weekend.
Yeah.
And
Just for that con.
And so it's incredible to see the differences. And when they come in that way, it's kind of neat because you get to see into another aspect of the geek culture, and
Mm-hmm.
depending upon how tight you are with the friends, you may end up helping them out with their cosplay changes. True. or designing. Hey, you guys are just gonna take in passively the con. Let's not schedule everything. Let's just float from thing to thing and see what's going on next and what catches our interest. And if we walk out early on something, we might find something else. And so there's different approaches. And
so let's get to a deeper question, which is that what does a con provide sort of informationally, if you will, that you can't get on the internet? So, and I'm asking this from a sort of, from a high level perspective. You know, we can talk about that in terms of, we can think about that, but from a very simple perspective, they're showing anime, and that's what Crunchyroll's for. They have panels. And so what are you getting from those panels? You have the halls full of cosplayers. Well, there are photographs of those online. So what are you getting out of that experience? What do people get out of that experience that they don't get from the internet?
Oh, well, there used to be a saying, you just had to be there, man. When somebody would describe something to you, they could describe it, but there's nothing like being there, because words are limiting, and secondhand experience is kind of tricky. But actually being there in person, live, and choosing where you go and what you do and how you interact is so much different than living through it secondhand or through the internet. So I'd have to say that real live time makes a huge difference. And the panels, you can get some panels to some degree on the internet, but being able to ask your panelist a question, or when something comes up, laugh with with everybody else at something, or the one person who shouts from the back of the room some funny comment and everybody hears it. That's the kind of thing you don't really catch as much on an internet event. And being able to ask in real time, oh, could you go back and elaborate more on this, or explain that, or you can actually steer the dynamic of the panels to some degree.
Yeah.
So there is some interaction that you can't get on the internet. So there's that I think is some of the benefit. Also being able to go and eat stuff. At the last convention I went to, on the dealer's floor, someone had the merchant's floor. They had a booth with all sorts of foods. Not just Pocky, but they had all sorts of mochi and, of course, the ramen sodas and things like that. And I saw flavors that I'd never seen anywhere else. I probably, I'm kind of lazy. I'm not going to get on the internet and special order this stuff and wait, a week to get it, or 5 days or 2 days or whatever. Yeah. But if it's there right at a con, I'm going to order it, open it, eat it right there, standing in front of the guy's booth, and evaluate it, and, offer it to other folks and say, what do you think about this? Is it, does it really taste the way that flavor is? Or, and just being able to interact and make new friends that are, you can meet somebody on the internet, but when you meet them in real life, there's a certain thing where you kind of feel, oh, okay, I can place the face, then the story's a little better about folks. So it really creates a sort of a tighter community. There's a community, but that strengthens it. And that I found really enjoyable.
What do you think about the dealer's room in general? I mean, one of the things I find, I drop a lot of money in the dealer's room. And for me, I think there's something about being able to see the thing you're buying in 3 dimensions, especially like a model kit.
Open the
or a
box and look
figurine.
at the different. Oh, there's
Yeah.
18,000 pieces, and they're really tiny.
Mhm.
Okay, it's only this much. Hey, maybe I can haggle with the guy
Mm,
and negotiate. That's one fun thing. Is if
true.
I'm buying 8 of these things, can you cut me a deal? Sometimes they'll haggle a little bit, which you can't do
Mhm.
online. It's usually
True.
fixed price or
Mhm.
so, that's kind of
Yeah. And there's also an advantage to seeing a lot of different products side by side that you don't get in an online store, where there's all of these, being able to see this figurine next to that figurine next to that figurine gives you a much better sense of quality.
Oh yeah.
And a better sense of kind of what you're buying with your money.
You can really examine in a detailed way the quality of merchandise.
Mhm.
And for some things it's not as much of an issue buying a
Mhm.
DVD. Yeah, DVD's pretty much straightforward. But when it comes to merchandise like figurines or wall scrolls or
Mm.
even the opportunity to buy used manga, you can say, hey,
Oh, yeah.
this one looks like it was in a library and I got a better deal, but
That's a great
well
point.
read.
Actually, there's a lot of used merchandise I've got at anime cons where I don't necessarily trust a a used copy that's in good condition.
Yeah,
online.
what does that relative good condition mean?
Yeah, may
Playable
contain
or
markings.
scratch?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
On the play side?
and then being able to go and get 10 volumes of a manga for $2 each. It's really great being able to do that. Now, Liquid brings up a good question. Some of us haven't been to anime conventions in the chat room. It's
or game conventions or
sure, yeah,
just the conventions in general. There's so many
Mhm.
different areas, Comic-Con and DragonCon and all the different things. But what would be the largest convention that you've been to, Brent?
Probably, Anime Expo. I went to a couple years ago.
Ooh,
And
Anime Expo. Now, where's that?
That's in Los Angeles, California.
Oh,
Now the problem with largest is that Anime Expo and Otakon have kind of traded biggest for a while. Anime Expo then got bigger than Otakon, but I've been to Otakon every year since. So Otakon might technically be bigger now, but it was certainly the biggest then. So I don't quite know how that works out in terms of raw numbers. But probably that, and that's up in the 35 to 40,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
Wow.
The interesting thing is that Anime Expo, though, is in a very large convention center, so the traffic flows much better than it does at, say, Otakon, where that convention center is so maxed out, and it's just kind of squirrely, some of the different areas, that AX, even though it has more people, it's actually easier getting places.
Yeah, moving around is definitely important. And from my understanding, Otakon is planning on moving from Baltimore to Washington while that convention center is being remodeled.
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Yeah, not Washington State.
We get so, used to Washington.
D.C. Okay. But it's going to take a little hiatus from that location. And in their history, they've moved around a few times.
Sure.
So it's not unprecedented.
Oh, certainly not. No. In fact, I was there for their first year at the Baltimore Convention Center back in 2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've seen the evolution.
Oh, yes. They were actually using the convention center, half of the convention center. The other half was for a future of agriculture convention, I believe.
What a mix.
Oh boy, people were very confused, standing there looking around.
The future of agriculture. We're going to grow people like this here. As the cosplayer walks through with
What's the biggest one you've been to?
I got to say Otakon. I think there's different benefits for different size cons, and sometimes with a larger con you feel a little bit lost in the crowd or sort of in the back, but with the smaller cons you have more of a personalized feel, and instead of being you're like 8 gazillionth otaku that's passed me today that I just have to manage, it's more of a hey, you're a person, and everybody understands. Everybody helping in staff support eventually
grows a little bit fatigued with answering the same question every day, or
Mhm.
or
The
like
bathrooms are
every
over
few minutes.
there.
But everybody wakes up in the morning, they're all fresh, but after a while, okay, take a break, relax, recharge your batteries. But with the smaller cons, you get more personalized.
Let's come
feel.
back to that in a minute, because I want to deal with the question of when larger cons are worth it relative to smaller cons. Liquidus in the chat room brings up the point about used stuff at cons. That he says that his friends they tend to find a lot of good stuff at the cons they go to, because they can save up to buy anime figurines, get good deals on used figurines.
Oh, used figurines.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully,
Nice.
we mean used in more of a packaged and unpackaged, not in a other sense. But the advantage is, that you can find some interesting deals at an anime con that you're not going to find at an online store. Odd, weird stuff. I've seen doujinshi for sale at there, where you're not. You may find a scan somewhere, but you're suddenly flipping through a lot of these doujinshi. They're going to be a lot harder to find. I mean, those just aren't going to be sold at even an anime store.
Something you mentioned reminded me of promotional materials. That's one thing that in some of the earlier years past, I remember passing by industry booths like Funimation's booth, and different tables they'd have outside of the dealer's room, where they'd have little flyers and posters and promotional materials for their upcoming shows. And that's the kind of thing I didn't see very much at anywhere else. That was one of the benefits of going to the conventions, because I could get my free promotional poster of thus and such show that's coming out,
and often they'll give out some of those things too when you buy stuff.
Yeah,
so you can choose a poster or a mouse pad or something.
The Spice and Wolf coin, you buy the whole series, you get the coin. Or I got Cashirinsen's metal like a poster, except it's metal, like a sign, like a road, like a do not park here sign, but it was all Cashirinsen's.
Nice.
So some unusual promotional stuff that you just don't see anywhere else. And stopping by the booth or getting something. That Dragon Ball Z was ball that Dragon Ball there is it was a promotional thing. I mean, now I think they sell them, but I got that one as a promotion, which is
cool.
Kind of neat. That's one of the fun things, and actually getting a chance to see your voices for things, the voice actors, in a more human setting. You've got their voice on the show, which is really cool, but what are they really like? What is the personality that drove the character behind this? Oh, this person's very different than the character.
And let's not forget giveaways at panels, where at some of these industry panels, they'll give away stuff to people who ask questions. You can get limited edition things. I've seen or gotten a few giveaway stuff here and there, which again, you're not necessarily going to find that stuff anywhere else, because they only made 10 of them just for giveaway at this con or at other cons.
Artists.
Oh yeah, Artist Alley.
You can see a lot of artists in some of the websites, but being able to actually go up and look at their art and talk in person with them, see how they feel about things, have a real discussion. That's fun.
And ordering prints. I'm always folks don't, I think, seem to quite remember that you go up there and you can order a $15 print right there, and you're not paying shipping. You're not paying any of that stuff. It's often about half the price you pay for it online, because you're just getting it right there, and you just roll it up and take it with you. So it's a lot cheaper actually than getting it online a lot of times. And actually the prices are really low at conventions, I find. $20 for a pretty large print.
There are some really good deals that you can find at conventions.
And if you've been to if you haven't been to conventions in a while, a lot of artists have really improved. There are a lot of really high quality art booths there at cons these days, especially compared to 5 or 10 years ago.
In fact, it's kind of funny. There hasn't been a lot of manga made in the U.S. And we came across someone who's making manga in the U.S. And so there's, it's nice to be able to support somebody who's doing that, because it's all, bootstrapped. Okay, I have my day job and I'm putting my money into this because I love it.
And let's not forget, I mean, that's how so many things got started in Japan, where somebody went over and got a table at Comiket, or Daikon or one of these conventions, and started selling their homemade video game or whatever, and that grew into Fate Stay Night or what have you. So absolutely helping those folks is really, really cool. So
Vic, hey,
yeah, Vic's gonna
maybe we can interview him.
Vic's been in a lot of little conventions, and that's actually an interesting point. Is you might be surprised at what voice actors and what people will actually show up at a small con near you.
Yeah,
you may find somebody that you really like who's showing up at there's a Vic's going to be at this small con that's only going to be a couple hundred people nearby, and he's going to be in the area, so he's going to be there.
Wow.
So
hey, yeah.
So definitely that'll be a lot cheaper.
Just think of how many people queue up just to be in the room with him, and at a small con, you can actually talk to him.
Exactly. So let's get back to that question that topic we had before. When would you recommend folks go to a small convention, and what's the cutoff for a smaller convention being worthwhile? And then what are the factors for a larger convention where you might say that's maybe the cost?
Well, I suppose some of that would depend on where a person is in their fandom, their finances, and their location.
Do you think a smaller con is better for a newer fan? Or is a larger con better for a newer fan?
Well, if a fan is newer and doesn't have a lot of resources, I'd say a small local con is great. It'll get your feet wet. It'll give you it'll stimulate your appetite for some of the excitement, and it's enjoyable because it's going to be a little bit more personal, more relaxed. And then if you feel like braving some of the larger cons, you can say, okay, I'm going to plan to go to this and build up my resources. Where if you go to a large con up front, it can be overwhelming. And just navigating can sometimes be tricky. And it's such a fun experience. It would be sad to be discouraged by some of the logistical things. So I think for newer fans, a medium-sized con is probably more comfortable. That being said, if you can go to a larger con, if you have the finances, or if you're going to be in town when it's happening, visiting relatives, and say, "Oh, okay, I'll do this." Go for it. It's. I wonder about the cosplay aspect though, because cosplay at a smaller con versus a larger con. I wonder if it would be easier to do cosplay at a smaller con than a larger con, just because of coordinating and locations and hotels.
Well, and the other side of that coin too, one of the cosplayers I've talked to, the other thing is you want that costume to be seen by as many people as possible, and especially for a more complex costume, it's going to take you X amount of time to put it on, wear it, and take it off, no matter if you're at a smaller con or a larger con. So for her, it makes sense to wear it at a larger con and not go through all the effort at a smaller con. She might wear a simpler costume. Ed from Cowboy Bebop, for example. But the logistics of wearing a costume and bringing it and all that kind of stuff sometimes isn't worth it at a smaller con.
That makes sense.
So who knows? Yeah. So at what point would you say, what factors would you say that would make a larger con a bad idea for somebody?
I don't have the money to get there and back. The price can also sometimes be pretty steep for the larger cons. It's just in general, you have con food, but there's ways around that. You can bring some food with you. Staying there, because usually they're at convention centers in a city, so they're not always next door. And if you're going to go for the weekend, which they're usually over a weekend, that means you're going to have hotel expenses. So if you have relatives in town you can stay with, you can go back and forth. It makes it a lot easier.
What about
for friends?
What about the scale in general of a larger convention? It's
just incredible. There's something you get at larger cons just because it's like a fire. You have a small campfire, it's great. The more logs you have, it turns into a larger campfire, and soon it's a bonfire. And so with all the collective interest, you have a rip-roaring fire. It's great.
And Liquidus in the chat room points out on that topic that at larger cons, you'll get some neat premieres.
Yeah.
You get the chance to all
industry
these events,
news.
Yeah.
Oh, we're releasing this over the summer. News to everybody.
Right. Or like what happened, Liquidus was saying with the business panel last year when they announced the Sailor Moon acquisition. And also just like a premiere of a dub. You may get to see a dub or a show for the first time that you wouldn't otherwise have seen. And you're not going to get that at a smaller convention.
Yeah.
That is an interesting issue.
Yeah.
So Fisher asks an excellent question. Is it better to attend a large con with friends or to solo a large convention? That's a great question.
What is your take on that?
So I've done it both ways. I think it's better to attend with friends.
I'd agree. It's fun to go solo because you can go and see what you want to. But every now and then, it's fun to have a friend who says, "Hey, did you see this?" or "Check out this," or after a while you go, "Oh, I'm all alone." But you can always make friends there. But at the same time, having somebody who's into the scene. If you have somebody who's a friend who's not into the scene, it can be a little bit awkward. And, I don't want to have to sell them on the idea. If it's not their bag, it's not their bag. But if they're into it, then it's really cool.
There are two things I think that a group brings to you at a large convention. One is, like you were saying, kind of sharing the joy. If you're with other people who are excited, even in a large crowd, and that's one of the problems with a large con is it's a little harder to enjoy yourself solo at a large con because you're alone in a crowd, right? The other thing that a group will give you is coverage. So they can go to the
watch my bag for a minute while I go and
we've all had this issue at a larger con where they scheduled this panel right opposite this panel, right opposite this show I want to watch.
My space in a line.
Yeah. So you can, when things are overlapping, suddenly multiple people can go there, and you can get some aspect of that.
I brought goodies. Yay! Share, everybody.
Yeah. And Liquidus brings up the excellent point that if you're with other people who've been there before and it's your first time.
Oh, that's the best, because then they can guide you. They can say, last year they had this really cool stuff over here. Check it out.
Yeah, no, it's great to get other people, to give you a sense of, the schedule and the building of where are the bathrooms.
I know there was a food court somewhere around. What's that? Oh, there's 3 or 4 places, Chipotle's right across the street. Chipotle.
Yeah, and this was important for Otakon for the longest time, is that there was a KFC like 3 blocks up, and you just wouldn't know about it unless somebody said, you got to kind of go up there and go around the corner and there's this little place, and that's the only spot that wasn't full of con goers all the time. So that can be really helpful.
Bronies. It's funny. People will leave flyers all over the place at cons, and it's a really cool way to find out about stuff that you ordinarily might not find on the internet. There's so much on the internet, it's overwhelming. But going to a con, you're already focused on a group of with common interest, and I'll walk along and I'll pick up flyers that I see set out on coffee tables or wherever, and find all sorts of neat conventions and odd stuff that I've never even considered. And I've even seen the flyers for the Brody convention. So
it's a big thing. So what about smaller conventions? When do you think a smaller convention is not the best idea for somebody? I know for me, one of the issues with smaller cons is that there's relatively less to do. So you have to be a more kind of self-starter than you are at a larger con. With a larger con, there's always something going on. With a smaller con, they may have one panel going on at any given time that may not interest you.
Yeah.
So that can be an issue depending on kind of where you are in the fandom. But if it's all local folks and you're more likely to meet people
sounds like a great opportunity to get involved with the community and meet some other people who have similar interests. And even if the panel isn't something you're interested in, there's the opportunity to, if you're a more mature fan and you've developed a base of knowledge, you may want to think about doing a panel there next year say, oh, you guys didn't cover the game of Go. There's a Go club in this area, or here's some information. Oh, introduction to J-pop.
Yeah,
because there's so many people who know J-pop exists, but really pass by the booths and don't really have any concept of who are all these artists. I have no framework to put this in. Or cosplay, all the different, we design props, we use mold casting, we use 3D printing, we use, of course, sewing, and, origami, there's just so many different things. Gaming, there's panels that can be done on different game engines. How are games designed? Here are the categories of games. This is first-person shooter. This is a visual novel. This is and break it down into all those different things. And it's not just anime conventions. There's spillover. Because cosplay is involved in both, and animation spills over with a lot of gamers. So there's gaming that goes on at anime conventions, and video games, but also board games, role play games, and different stuff like that. And so there's a lot of spillover of different categories.
And let's not forget either that, if you do go to those panels that may not interest you that much, you may be one of 3 people in the room. This may be your opportunity to actually talk to that panelist, to actually go back and forth. Exactly. and learn something unusual. And you can even direct things. I did a panel at a small con where there was literally 3 attendees. And that was fine. It was late at night. But every question they asked, I was able to answer in full detail. And I was going into lots of detail that I normally wouldn't have the time to at another con. So definitely it's your opportunity to really get involved with those panels or whatever else you're involved with.
That's a good point there. The ability when you're with your friends to split up and one person can make it to some special deal or special event. Like, we're gonna have a drawing here, or
yeah,
a limited time. So with the smaller conventions, what point does it more of a local versus regional?
Yeah, I'm thinking of these things that are maybe 400 people.
Wow,
and these really small cons, and there are lots of them all over the place. So let's say under 1,000 is a typical kind of small con size.
That sounds like a great way of doing things, especially for somebody who's getting interested in it, because you can get your feet wet. The travel is going to be less. The expense is going to be less. There won't be as much diversity, but then you can get a feel for things and then appreciate even more when you go to a larger con, the diversity of that.
And also, if you're at a small local con where literally you've driven there from home, the advantage is if there's not much going on a Friday night, you can just drive home.
Yeah, and you're not a captive.
Yeah, and then come back for things that interest you. I had this happen at a small con where I ended up kind of just exploring the town nearby because I had a couple of free hours, and that's totally fine. It just kind of depends on what interests you and what you're there for.
Now the flip side. Emptying completely your wallet and then your bank account is a hazard, because you find as you go to conventions, if you see something, you may never see it again. And the temptation is buy it immediately because it will not be there again. And that, if you don't make sure you know how much you're going to spend going in, it can easily go into impulse buying because you're not going to see it. So
and remember, these are 2 guys with long experience in anime. We've been around for a while, and we're telling
empty wallets.
Yeah, and and we're telling you, we will find things that you have never seen before. Almost every time I go to a large convention, I find a toy or a model or something where I'm like, I have never seen that online in person. It is amazing how much stuff you stumble across. So
I remember this game when I was in elementary school, and they've got it. Nostalgia.
So what are your strategies for that? How do we deal with that?
Well, there's different ways. If a person's self-disciplined, you can say, okay, I'm going to spend this much and tally it as you go along. For a person who may be a little bit less, deciding upfront how much you're going to spend, withdraw it from your account or ATM, have that cash in pocket. Once cash in pocket is gone,
and tell your friends. Yeah, if you're going with a group, say,
hey,
yeah,
watch me. Make sure I don't go crazy.
Yeah.
Because not only when you get it, you still have to haul it home or put it in your hotel room or something. So
and be specific. You know, don't just tell people, you know, I don't want to spend much. Make sure I don't spend too much.
How much is that? Well, much to you is little to me, or vice versa. And
yeah. My budget
you bought Pocky.
is
No more Pocky for you.
Exactly.
Oh wait, no, it's just Pocky.
Yeah. Yeah. Now tell them I'm only going to spend $50 today. That's all I can spend. And then someone's paying attention. And I'm, you know, again, being honest here, if you have credit cards, leave them in your hotel room if you need to. You know, do whatever you need to make sure that it's not that bad.
Yeah. You want to enjoy the con experience. And if you have the cash hangover, then it's less enjoyable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Liquidus brings up another good point in the chat room. That sometimes an actual creator of a show will come over and reveal something that you didn't hear before. In fact, I was at Anime Expo and they announced Trigun Badlands Rumble.
Who? What?
So I was at Anime Expo a couple of years ago and they had a Trigun panel, and I went there, and they had the director and the writers of Trigun there doing a panel, and they were showing, you know, they were talking about, then there were cosplayers. Vash was there, and Wolfwood, and the guys took. Here's kind of the fun thing is that both of those guys were tickled pink to see people cosplaying characters from Trigun. I suspect it's partly because the show isn't as popular in Japan, so they don't see that much cosplay of them. But they were smiling and taking photos of them. And they said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're making a new Trigun movie. And here's the trailer." You know, oh, thank you.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. And yeah, and behind the scenes history. When I was with, not to make this all about me, when I was that first Otakon, the reason I went is because the director and the character designer of Serial Experiments Lane were there, along with the folks who did the opening theme song. And so I went to a panel with Taki Kanaka and Yasuyuki Ueda, and they talked about what their process was on Lane and what processes they went through to design the characters. And Abe was saying that, how did he put it? For me, Lane was a person that I was trying to remember, not a character I was creating.
Oh, wow.
So he said, I approached it like I had met Lane at one point in the past, and I was trying to remember her through my art.
That is wild.
Yeah. And
those insights for just as a creator to approach it that way, that's very different. Very insightful, though.
Yeah. And it added a certain sense to the show where he wasn't consciously inventing the character. He was trying to pull his subconscious more into what she should look like. And they talked about the asymmetry, that they wanted Lane to not be symmetrical because that's just a little creepy.
Take both kidneys. Sorry.
Yeah.
The discipline.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's why she has the braid on one side, so that so you're not always seeing her the same way. So it's tough. Or it's interesting seeing those things. I say it's tough because Fisher put in chat room, you know, you see stuff and you really want it, and it's hard not to say, okay, payment plan. Can I take out a credit card with your company now? What can I do? It's tough. It really is. But you have to figure out something.
Yeah, I went overboard on those little models from Galaxy. Yamato,
yeah,
21.99. You never see that stuff in ordinary spots. And yeah, with the 5,000 copies made, you know, it's when you see a box set and it's something, especially the special sets.
Yeah,
you know, somebody had to design all that and put it together, and then it's going to be limited distribution, and then it's going to end up in a save with a green spine or something, and that's not as appealing as the box set, you know,
and also
the T-shirt in it or other,
you know, the other fact is pretty much all anime is limited edition.
Yeah,
you know, they're not making millions of these box sets. So any anime you come across, except Dragon Ball Z. But you know, anything that you want that's not a huge, super popular title, they may run out of stock here fairly soon. You may not find stuff. So Liquidus asked this question: how do we feel about con exclusive stuff? Do you think they're too limited to be able to actually get? That's a good question.
Wait, like what?
So sometimes they will have these limited edition things where it's like, if you show up at our panel and you're one of the first 20 people to show up, then you get this giveaway. And so people will line up 5 hours ahead of time and stand in the hallway to get that one limited edition thing.
That's some dedication there.
Some dedication.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing overall for the hobby and the industry?
I'm not sure. It really solidifies the dedication of those people. I really like the idea of being able to camp out for something, but I don't like spending the time camping out when there's so many other great things going on that I feel like I'm missing just to camp out. So if I'm going to camp out, I'm going to be dyed in the wool, dedicated to whatever this is, because I know what I'm missing. So I don't know. I mean, it's good for those folks who are definitely into it. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah. I'm kind of, well, my personal take, I've never had that strong desire for those limited edition things. For me, it's great that people want them, but I'm not going to spend extra time sitting around waiting for that thing. I just don't care that much. You know, I want the content, and okay, there's an extra poster or whatever. It's effective. I'll put it that way. I think it works. I think it gets hype. It gets people talking about the show, and it works to make the show more interesting and more exciting. And then, of course, as 00 points out in the chat room, then the folks who get that stuff turn around and sell it on eBay for 10 times as much.
Shall I sign this poster for you? Yes. Make it out to eBay.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's the other side of the coin too, is when it becomes a speculator's market. I think that's when you have an issue. We saw this in comics, where people were buying these limited edition comics back in the 80s, in the 90s, you know, for just to hold on to them to sell them someday. And that wasn't very healthy for the industry at all, because nobody was reading the comics. They were just, you know, buying them to put them in a closet somewhere. So yeah, I think that is when it gets to be a problem. But I think if you want to do that, that's fine. You know, if you want to wait for something, or if you want to you know, do that one special hop on a foot and, you know, raise your hand to actually get that one thing, that's good for you.
It shows a lot of dedication on the part of the fan, which I can appreciate that. If it was at a convention, though, I would always feel like there's so much else going on that I'm missing out, and I paid to be at this convention for all these other things as well. And so I'd always kind of wonder, you know, is this the best use of my time? Because if I spent my whole time doing that, then what else am I missing out on? If I'm missing out on stuff that's not too important, then I might do that. But if I know that I wanted to see this panel, I marked it beforehand, or my favorite voice actor is going to be here, or they have the rave going on right now, and I met that girl and she said she was going to be there, I'm going to go dance. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's like they say, spend money on experiences, not stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to go and enjoy yourself in that sense, as opposed to getting that special, you know, Dragon Ball or whatever, you know, you might want to consider that.
Yeah.
But on the other, now, I think like for Comic-Con is a little different, because you've got items of larger cultural value where everyone is going to see, oh my gosh, you have that one limited edition gun from that one prop that no one else has. You know, oh, you have the limited edition swimsuit version of Yuki Nagato. No one's going to know, you know? So that is, and that could, I think too, whether you carry yourself, you know, I would certainly not stay in line for something that's more of a status symbol for other people. But if it's something that I'm going to look at and
if it
smile
pleases
at,
you, if you're happy, hey, Saber Sworn.
Oh, hey, Saber.
Yeah. So if it brings you happiness,
yeah. And there's certainly things like that around. Every time I look at one of these wall scrolls, I smile.
Yeah.
So
those are great.
Nothing wrong with that.
I enjoy those.
And actually, wall scrolls and things like that is another good example of stuff that don't look good online. You know, you take a photograph of that, and you really don't get a sense for that screen silk printing.
And we don't even have them lit up really well right now. We're just in the background, but those things are great. You know, maybe when we get some more money, we'll change the set. We'll get better lights.
Patreon.com/geekspectrum. Donate now. So yeah, that's an interesting.
But you know, free stuff is great. And a lot of stuff that I get is free stuff. And you know, there's so many promotionals. The industry panels are always trying to put out things, and a lot of anime shops will have cards for people starting up their anime or their magazine, or you know, those are fun to get, and they don't cost a lot, and you can. Some of them are such good quality printing that you can almost use those as, you know. As you know, I mean, they would sell them if they were, you know,
they look great.
So,
well, and then there's another aspect to con culture that I think is worth mentioning, and that is kind of the party culture, where a lot of folks will, you know, bring a PlayStation or an Xbox into their hotel room, and everybody meet up in my room. Exactly. We'll play. We'll have some pocky. We'll enjoy ourselves. So if you know people who are doing that, and when you know people who are doing that, don't just show up. You know, that can be a great opportunity, because then you're meeting new people, you hang out with folks you do know, and you can kind of enjoy yourself in a very different environment. That can be a lot of fun.
One of these days, a lot of the cons that I've been to have a formal dance. And one of these days, I'd like to do the formal thing.
Yeah.
Of course, they have all sorts of rules, you know, so you don't end up bumping into somebody with cosplay that might fall over, shatter, damage. But then they have stuff that's a little bit more crazy, like the rave, and then some of the pageantry involved in the cosplay displays, and sometimes they even have folks like Uncle Yo who will get up there, and he will make you laugh so hard.
For those who don't know, Uncle Yo is a comedian, a stand-up comedian who specializes in anime humor.
It's a very unique area.
It is.
And, you know, when I first heard him, I had a little bit of anime under my belt. I didn't have as much. So I got a lot of his humor, but I didn't get all of it. And so I had to dig through some more titles. But, you know, he aims it so that everybody gets a good chuckle, and he makes it very topical. It's great. Really good.
And I think that's another important aspect of conventions, is that you get to witness passion. You see all these different people doing all these different things in a way that you're just not going to experience on the street, you know, of your city.
Well, imagine a movie theater size room with all people watching the same anime show you are, and how they respond. You can hear when people gasp, and when people laugh, and when they or they go, you know, it's. You really get a feel for how everybody else kind of views the same thing you're viewing. And sometimes when I'm watching all by myself, I'll laugh, but I won't laugh as hard.
Yeah.
But when I'm with a group, I laugh, and I realize somebody else laughed at it. I think it's funny that they're laughing at it too. And it just becomes contagious. And just the emotion that everybody has while they're watching something, hearing. I mean, it's not like canned laughter of a sitcom. It's real human emotion response to these things.
Yeah.
And you just don't get that watching alone. And so
one of the reasons I go to cons is for this one experience I had back in Otakon, when they premiered the English dub of Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. And this was in the middle of the Gundam Wing fanaticism. And I was a Gundam Wing fan, and so I went there, and I went into a room that was filled with probably, it felt like about 1,000 people, all of whom were rabid Gundam Wing fans. And we hadn't seen this. We didn't know what we were in for. And we sat down and we watched, and the energy was incredible. People were sitting there, you know, someone would come on screen. Every character who showed up on screen got a round of applause when they first showed up on screen. People were yelling out, "I love you, Katra!" from the back. It was amazing. And so you're absolutely right. It's those experiences of being with other people, enjoying something together, that I think really makes it worth it. But like we said, I think it's important to be aware of what you're getting yourself into, budget appropriately. If you're going to a smaller con, that's going to be a little easier, but you're going to have to have a better sense of how you're going to spend your time. At a larger con, you're going to have no problem finding things to do. So just prepare for that.
Clubs sometimes have booths there.
True.
And it's a nice sort of networking opportunity. Oh, I didn't realize there was a anime club in this area, or you guys are a little further outside of my geographic area, but
I can show up every so often, maybe. Yeah.
And do you know of any clubs that are in my area?
And conventions too. We were talking about this
conventions,
earlier.
All the different conventions will advertise at other conventions.
Yeah, we both stumbled across conventions that we didn't know existed, in our backyard practically. So you can find some neat stuff.
And some of the smaller ones that are very niche.
Yeah.
They may go a little bit further away from anime to more steampunk oriented or game or like adult themed, which could be I'm not sure whether that's adults as far as subject matter or adult as far as like display content.
And there are both of them. I mean, quite famously, a few years ago, there was an attempt to do an anime con just for adults. That was for panels. Nothing prurient. It was just we're not going to have little kids running around. We want this to be a more orderly get together. And so you had to be, I think it may have been 18 or 21 or older. And the idea was to make it more structured that way. So, they're out there. Some of those things are out there.
Liquid Snake brings up the point of beta testing and audience testing. And I've seen preview movies where they'll see how it plays with a small audience and take a you get to see the movie beforehand with their particular ending or configuration of it, and then they'll ask the audience to give a little rating on fill out a little form about what they thought about the movie, and they'll test it in several different markets, and then based on the feedback they get, they may have their final edit that they end up putting out to the theaters for mass distribution. But that's more of a movie thing, and I haven't seen that as much with anime.
I'm not aware of that happening with anime. I get the sense that a lot of the preview screenings or just the regular anime screenings at especially the larger cons will be used more to gauge audience reaction to the show as a whole. How is the humor in this show working? Are people getting the
Did they get the joke?
Yeah, and a lot of these shows have a lot of different sides to them, where they can be humorous, they can be dramatic, they can be more actiony. So that the dub can reflect that in different ways. So I've heard of folks in the industry kind of sitting in the back and getting a sense of, okay, we've done the first 2 discs, maybe we need to shift the tone a little bit more in later productions.
You never know who's going to be there. I mean, there's authors who show up, some of them even have, they're selling their book. It's like first edition. Next thing you know, they've got 3 or 4.
Yeah.
All sorts of folks who show up to this, and you'd never know. You start digging deeper. Oh, so what do you do?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, wow.
And at the larger cons, you'll often come across things that you may not be aware of being at the con, but you may be really into. Like at which con were we at? They were showing live action movies, and we saw some really cool live action movies that I'd never heard of before. There's a documentary, some really interesting stuff that, again, you just kind of stumble across and can be something that becomes a favorite of yours, even though it's not strictly anime.
Well, you start getting into world comics and comics from Korea, South Korea, and even the communist North Korea. Communist North Korean comic?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, animation. How did it get out? I mean, somebody must have leaked it. That was kind of a surprise hearing that at a con. So you get some really neat stuff that you get an opportunity to diversify.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Cool. I think we have covered this pretty darn well. We've been going for about an hour now. So we want to thank you all for joining us, especially joining us in the chat room. If you're interested in these topics, please join us in the chat room live on YouTube, where we talk about all of these wonderful and interesting topics. And where can they go to our website to find out more about the stuff that we do, Evan?
Well, where can they go? It's we are at. Where are we at? We are at geekarchaeologists.com.
Correct. Absolutely. And please hop into our chat room on YouTube Live when we're covering those things.
Or if you're coming to a con,
yeah,
upcoming cons,
you might see us there.
You might see us at Animore in Baltimore and Katsukan in
National
Harbor, Washington, D.C. area, and Star City in Roanoke, Virginia. And hopefully we'll have some good interviews and con coverage from those locations. Yeah,
and you'll see here at Otakon as well, hopefully.
One thing I didn't mention was the opportunity to get cells.
Oh, yeah.
That was fantastic. Of course, you guys have probably already heard me gush about getting cells, but that was one thing that I enjoyed at one of the conventions there.
Absolutely. That was cool. So next week, I hope you will join us for this
Geek Water. Yes,
different time. We'll be at a different time next week, where we will be discussing the question of what's going to be the next big genre in anime. So now that kind of the slice of life moe thing is starting to cool off,
moe or less.
Yeah. What will be the next big genre? We'll talk about that next week. Hope you'll join us. Thank you all very much for watching this week. We will see you again different time next week. Check our schedule at geekarchaeologists.com.